So we're going to do the best we can here. And so my name is Captain Brad White, founder of New England Burials at Sea. We're going to do a PowerPoint presentation here today. So I'm going to come off the screen. The PowerPoint's going to come on, but you'll be able to hear me. And we're going to talk today about what we do and what we offer and how a funeral director gets involved and how they need to get involved. We're not funeral directors. We're business people and licensed captains. Chris Goulet is the proper fiduciary to do any pre-planning fund deposits, do all funeral arrangements, whether it's a scattering at sea or a cremation going into a columbarium in a cemetery or a full body traditional burial. He's equipped to do that. They've been in business for many years. So we team together because many times on a full body burial, or all times on a full body burial, we're required to have a licensed funeral director with us. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to talk about, I'm going to get in a share screen here. And if you could keep an eye on any new people that come in, Susan, to let them in, that would be good. Can you all see that? Hello?
Yes.
You can all. Okay, good. So New England Burials at Sea, Cape Cod.
Oh.
Okay, so can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Muffled.
Okay, I'll get closer to the mic here. So that's the name of our company, New England Burials at Sea. We've been in business for about 16 years now. And today we're going to talk about how it works, a scattering at sea, an air scattering, full body burials at sea, for civilian and military, what the funeral directors do, how you can plan ahead. And then if you like, at the end, I'll put on a very nicely done 5-minute video of a real full body burial at sea departing Hyannis, so you can see what a full body looks like.
Oh, okay.
So we were founded in 2006, located in Marshfield, and we're the largest formally recognized burial provider in New England and really coast to coast. We use 86 boats departing out of 73 ports from Maine to Miami and San Diego to Seattle. And we work with and have trained 2,300 funeral directors by sea burial certifying them, meaning training them to understand best methods, best practices, and how to conduct a very beautiful and great scattering at sea or a full body burial at sea. And you may have heard us before on radio, on television. We do a lot of that in the Massachusetts area. So we Chronicle did a story on us. We've been written up in Yankee Magazine, Boston Globe, also the Wall Street Journal. And in our team here, we have myself, senior mate Trevor White, funeral director Paul Harrington out of Florida, Captain Rich Galt on the Cape and also down in Florida. We have a pilot, Thurston Summerfield, who hails out of the Norfolk, Virginia area for our scatterings there. And we also have 2 pilots in Groton, Connecticut. Captain Bruce Michaud just went through captain school. When we find somebody really good and they've got the ability, the sea legs, and the interest and the compassion, we pay for their captain school and they come aboard and help do burials at sea. Captain Jack Conway handles New York, Long Island, and Captain Phil Dodge is out in California. We have a lot of different names in addition to New England Burials at Sea. We have New York Burials at Sea, National Burials at Sea, California. We have 280 plus names right now. So when people let their Google search find ash scatterings or full body burials at sea, up we come. This is a picture of the group at the Hamel Leiden Chapel and Cremation Service in Massachusetts, located in Quincy, and they operate throughout the whole state and also throughout New England. And they've got a great young team of talented people that handle many funerals per year, Boston market to the Cape market. And Chris, tell us a little bit about your business.
Sure. Well, founded in 1932, most of our staff now is a young sort of 3rd and 4th generation, in some cases, young professionals. And we like to think we're on the cutting edge of service to the community. Although with technology, it's not my strongest suit, so I apologize if I'm not being heard here. I had you on mute a moment ago. I think, can people hear me right now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes.
So my colleague Michelle Leiden and I have a long history of service to the industry, And we are one of the largest cremation providers in the state, having founded.
He says something big happening at South Street and High School Road.
Hang on, Chris. Ma'am, talking about South Street, please mute yourself.
Muted.
Oh,
There we go.
Go ahead, Chris.
So lost my train of thought. We're one of the larger cremation providers in the state, having founded the Cremation Society of Massachusetts many, many years ago. And we also are serving a very diverse clientele in the Quincy area and South Shore area, everything from families who are Asian, Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, sort of the full gamut of society. And what I will say in the final moment I have to talk about my firm is the wonderful work, Brad, that you've done with your business, and the attention to detail that you've put into it is really second to none. So I'm very proud to be affiliated with Brad White and New England Burials at Sea.
Thank you, Chris. And for the folks listening in tonight, Hamill Leiden Chapel and Cremation Service is the first phone call we make when somebody calls and says, we don't have a funeral home, we need a funeral director, who do you recommend? Because ever since we did our first full body burial together, probably over a decade ago, I found that group to be responsive, accurate, faithful. And what I mean by that is what they say, their bond is their word is their bond. And there's 18,000 independent funeral directors in America, and this is one of them, and one of the best. So thank you, Chris. And folks, let's carry on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about Burials at Sea. Then we're going to tell you how we do them, because I'll come off the PowerPoint and then we can be face to face. But people say many times when they call us, I didn't know you could do this, how to do it, or where to do it. Is it legal? And the answer is yes. For ash gatherings, the EPA calls for us to be at least 3 miles offshore, and for a full body burial, at least 3 miles and at least 600 feet of water depth. So in this area, for a full body, we have to go up past Monomoy, which is about 45 miles offshore on the backside of Monomoy, or out off of 15 or 18 miles northeast of the end of Cape Cod at Provincetown to get out by I got to think of the bank that we go to out there. And we go there, and that's where we get 700 to 800 foot water depths. And in California, there's a 500-yard rule. They do so many scatterings at sea that the providers like ourselves petition the government, the state government, to waive that 3 mile rule. So they only have to go 500 yards. So they're in and out in like 20 minutes. And I'm a big believer that that really doesn't work in the healing process of your family. So for instance, the reason why people like scatterings at sea is because when you see those beautiful cremated remains in the water, and I say beautiful because they're sterilized minerals, what they do is they trigger the healing process in your brain, which then starts to give you closure. And many times people tell us 2 weeks after the fact that it was the most beautiful event that they've been to that's different and meaningful because they were able to grant the last and final wish of their loved one. So yes, it is legal, but you have to be 3 miles east of the line of demarcation, which is the coastline on both coasts. We can't do rivers, lakes, or streams. We get calls all the time for Chicago doing the Great Lakes. We just can't do it because the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is the group that manages that. So what I'd like to do is play a 30-second ad that runs on television, so it gives you a little bit of an idea about what customers say about us. Hi folks, Captain Brad White here, founder of New England Burials at Sea. Folks tell us all the time that they would like to donate their body to go back to the ocean, to leave fewer footprints than once they came. They like to travel the world forever with such an incredible life. That scattering with the roses, with, as I like to say, cosmic, is exactly what my mom wanted. Just so beautiful. It was over the top for me. Call us today. Perfect. 777. Now I'd like to show you a little different one here that will, let me just move forward, that will give you a different perspective about lighthouses, because we get this request a lot. Folks often ask, can I scatter my lighthouse cremated in a famous New England lighthouse? You bet. Their licensed technician tours, 5 here right in the Boston area. Behind me is Situate Life, the second largest in the country. So check us out today online. www.barriosatc.com or call us toll free through your free internet kit. 877-857-7700. By the way, at the end of this presentation, you'll see our email address. If you want to send us an email to get a complete info kit, we're happy to do that. And,
An inaudible, that what just
here.
showed.
Yes. We
What-
can
Hear
can
what
hear
was
the music, but not the voice.
Huh. That's-
Very muted.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go by this technology, we're gonna change slides. All right, so anybody can be buried at sea, civilian or military. And this gives you an idea of what it looks like with the different cultures and creeds that we work with. These are real customers, real client families that have come to us over the last year or so. And what's happening is the trends that we're experiencing, families are trending away from traditional 2 to 4 and 7 to 9 wakes and funerals. Nobody really visits the graveyard as much anymore because maybe somebody grew up in Hyannisport and they retired to Tucson, but when they pass away, they always come back to Hyannisport. So it's an interesting statistic. 175 million Americans live within 10 miles of the water. So there's a huge gravitational pull to get back to New England. And there are a lot of questions about burials at sea. So we created capchats.com. And that's a 14-part, 1-minute YouTube video about questions like what to look for in a sea burial provider. What size boat do I need for my family? What about children aboard? What about safety and weather? So capchats.com answers a lot of those basic questions. So these are the locations that we service at New England Burials at Sea up and down both coasts. And then the New England office where I'm sitting right now is in Marshfield, Mass, and Chris is in Quincy. And these are the Massachusetts departure locations. You see, we depart from 10 different places in Massachusetts. And we train funeral directors. As I mentioned, we sea burial certify them to talk about this when you make your meeting arrangements with them. And these are the sea burial certified funeral directors just in Massachusetts. So these are the folks that have been trained by us on the best methods and practices. And we depart, as I mentioned, from 76 ports and growing. And group events are common. The average group size, the Coast Guard regulates a vessel of up to 6 passengers or more than 6. So the average group size with us is anywhere from 6 to say 15 passengers. Here's one. This was a Navy event. You see the decedent's photograph and the nice ocean-friendly wreath, and the spouse is scattering his cremated remains. And just prior to this event, we had a Naval Honor Guard, which we'll talk about momentarily. These are celebratory events. They're not mourning events. People really want to celebrate their loved one. And what's included in a burial at sea is, of course, the boat, the order of service of what to do at sea that the family co-authors, the certificate of completion, and the 8-bell end of watch blessing. We're going to talk about what we do. Actually, let's do it right now. So what we do is today, if there's a military event, let's just take a military event in Hyannis. We'll have the Navy, they'll come dockside, and they will unfold, fold, and present the flag to the next of kin while sounding taps. And then we explain what the 13 folds of the flag means, and then we explain what taps means. And then we talk about the naval personnel and also the naval seaman that's the decedent. And that really gets a lump in everybody's throat. It's quite beautiful to recognize the achievements of the greatest generation, typically. And then we head 3 miles out to sea and we find a spot that's suitable with wind, tide, and current, which is very important because we don't want to have any ash blowback. And the family takes turns either scattering the loved one's cremated remains or using an ocean-friendly urn. Can you see that? Can anybody see that urn?
Yes.
Okay, so this is an ocean-friendly paper mache biodegradable urn, very inexpensive and works very well. And we can put their loved one's cremated remains in here, and then this bobbles around for 5 or 6 minutes before it sinks. And then you see the rose petals and the flowers, and that's the last thing you see in the water. And then we raise this Bergy flag, which is a yacht flag that has 8 stars on it. And we ring a 400-year-old Plymouth Plantation schoolhouse bell 8 times as a final farewell. We fly this, and then at the end of the day, we give it to you. And then we circle the area after the family's had a few things to say about their loved one. And then we fire off the ship's cannon in their honor. And then we come in, and the family gets 6 certificates showing date, time, latitude, and longitude. We take care of the required EPA permitting, and we have complimentary light beverages, and folks can bring if they want beer or wine, or we can offer catering and a cash bar. So that's what a scattering at sea is like. The full body burial at sea is exactly the same, but there's a full body that goes over the side, and you'll see some pictures of that in a moment. So we find it best to promote allowing families to be involved in the sea burial. There's no norm. We like to have people be creative. Maybe they write messages on seashells or the latitude, longitude, and the seashells go over with their loved one, or paper mache photographs of fond times. And then we also promote use of organic products, which we'll talk about the burial shroud in a minute. We recycle everything. We carpool because we want to make sure everybody gets to the boat at the same time so that we're not waiting for Uncle Fred driving around looking for a parking spot. It's better to move everybody at the same time if we can. And we also promote ADA compliance. We have wide gangways so that we can get a wheelchair or a walker down. And we have sign language. Off of Hyannis one year, we had 3 signers, 1 in each deck, and they were signing Amazing Grace. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And then we have for sight impaired or hearing impaired folks, we can help them with that. We welcome service animals, and we're all trained in first aid. We're trained in using Narcan, which in case there was an opioid overdose of some sort. And we're also trained on a CPR and kind of heavy duty first aid. We redo that every 2 years. We stand up. What I mean by that is about 6 or 7 years ago at the National Funeral Directors Show, the Funeral Association announced that cremation will eclipse 78% of total traditional burials in the year 2025. So right now it's grown from 40% to 50 to 60. What percent are you seeing, Chris, in cremations?
I think we're right about 50% as in this area geographically. Of course, our firm is a lot higher than that because we really started the cremation business way before most funeral directors were forward thinking enough to want to court that consumer. So our cremation rate is somewhere around 74%, 73%.
Wow. So thank you for that. And what's interesting is when the National Funeral Directors Association said that cremation was going to go that high, of course, the Catholic Church came out and said, well, we approve of cremation, but if you want your 7th and final sacrament, you have to be in a columbarium, in a niche in a Catholic cemetery. Now, the older priests will say that, the younger priests will say something quite different. You do it from your heart. And what we want to do with the Catholic Church is use an urn, just like I showed you here, because if the cremated remains go overboard altogether versus scattering, even though they're going to have the same destination, that satisfies the Catholic Church. So we did a press release way back when saying we stand up for you, our client families, so they think about making your decision. So a scattering at sea is really theater of the mind. If you take a look, see that statue right there on the left? That is from Penny Camp. I took that down in Key Largo when I was scuba diving, and that's how beautiful it is on the water. And to the right, you're going to see those are the arrows of where cremated remains travel. So if you leave Cape Cod, you go all the way up to the Maine and Canadian Maritimes, over to the United Kingdom, around Africa, down past the Caribbean, and they catch the Gulf Stream and they come back. So that's really, really comforting for a family when they know their loved ones traveling in that type of pattern forever with incredible wildlife. 2,400 humpback whales out here. We have 360 remaining right whales. We have big sea turtles. We have hundreds of thousands of Atlantic white-sided dolphins. And on the backside of Monomoy, there are 60,000 seals. So people love to be with that wildlife. So we call that theater of the mind. These are the common scenes you see. And if you look on the lower left, that's what we don't want to see. We don't go out if there's heavy lightning or heavy wind. We like to go out and see the beautiful nature in a flat, calm environment. And with today's weather forecasting tools, if we're taking somebody out on a Saturday, we can tell them on a Tuesday that 2 o'clock departure time is fine, or we need to move it an hour ahead or an hour back because we can see weather that far ahead. And these are some of the things we see. That's Situate Light. There are the Atlantic white-sided dolphins on the left. There are the seals on Monomoy on the right. That's a whale there.
Humpback whale, I think.
Spyglassing is what they're doing. And then down in the middle, that's Teddy Kennedy in his sailboat a number of years ago, sailing through one of our flower fields. So I always kept that because he was a pretty good guy to us down there. These tributes start sad, but they end happy. It's not very often that you see at a funeral home where people line up for a photo like they do in the bow of the boat there. And there's our Bergy flag in the lower right, and that's Calvin. He's our mate down in Lewis, Delaware. And this is what scattering at sea looks like. So this is out off of Boston Harbor. And you see those cremated remains? They create this beautiful ash plume. And that's when people start to get closure. And then we use wreaths or flowers that are all ocean friendly and biodegradable. These are the types of boats we use. These are the 6-passenger boats. That's my personal boat in the upper left. That's the White Cap. She hails out of Situate. And these other boats are up and down the coast. And then we also have a vintage series. These are some older boats, like Grandpa loved to fish up off of the rocks in Maine, and that's the vessel in the lower right. And we always tell folks, and we're proud of this, that our vessels are handicap accessible, which is really important. So if somebody comes, we've had somebody 105 years of age aboard to somebody to 5 days of old aboard. And what we do with the older folks that might have a bad knee or a hip is we do the sit and spin. They sit in the side of the boat, they spin around. We have well-attired crew there to assist and help, and they feel very comfortable that we care that much about them to get them aboard. We also have a luxury series of vessels with leather couches and TVs. And the offshore series is for larger groups and/or for full-body burials at sea. The lower left goes out of Newburyport. Up in the middle is out of Hyannis, and on the right out of Boston. We also have air scatterings. We have a device, I didn't bring it here to show you, but it's called the Air Glide. It was developed by an 85-year-old pilot that has since passed away. His name was Ev, and he worked on it with Lindbergh. And it's about the size of a bag of Wonder Bread. And we put the cremated remains inside. We take off. We have a nice tarmac side service. It's about 5 or 10 minutes with the family. The family doesn't come with us when we go aloft. And then we take off and we do a swing around the airport. We dip our wings, we do red rose petals over the airstrip, and then we head out to sea 3 miles out, and we can geo-target those cremated remains in an airplane just like that over a 500-yard area. So a lot of folks do it up by the Isle of Shoals and New Hampshire. Many do it down between Groton, Connecticut, and Montauk, which is pretty cool.
Oh.
We arrange bagpipers if you like them. We have 3 of the best bagpipers in the Northeast. The fellow in the lower left, bagpipes for the Bush family. The fellow in the upper right, I'm sorry, for the Queen of England. And the fellow in the upper right is a bagpiper for the Bush family. And this is David in the middle. He's out of Plymouth. And with the bagpiper, they also have a snare drum, which is just incredible when they play with us. We arrange for the shoreside honors if somebody was in the service. So we take that responsibility away from the funeral director just because it's easy for us to have direct communication to the military force, so we can talk about day and time and if there's a change because of vessel or weather. So we get all the service branches. They like working with us because we're very respectful of them. They don't have to sit in a church for an hour because they're in and out in about 10 or 15 minutes. So here's an honor guard event out off of Newburyport, and there's the happy family with the flag, and there's the Air Force right there folding and getting ready to pass that flag on. So full-body burials aren't new. I mean, they go back 300 years, but nobody could tell you how to do them. So I went to the Boston Public Library and studied it, and does anybody know what that vessel is on the far left?
I don't know.
Oh, come on, it's Old Ironsides, the Constitution, the oldest commissioned warship on the planet.
I'm used to seeing it parked at the dock.
I know. So anyway, right next to that is a body going overboard, and to the right of that is the burial shroud. And then there are the cannonballs. And what we use is a hand-stitched burial shroud in Situate, Massachusetts. This is just a sample so I can show. And it's made of a heavy cotton canvas duck. And it unzips. The cannonballs go on the bottom here. We put a message here for mom or dad or their medals or their chocolates. We also have a camera that can go here, and you can see what dad or mom see on the way down in high definition living color, which is pretty incredible. On the back, there are grommets. There's 42 inches of grommets on the full shroud, and that allows air and gases to escape and sea life in. So as you see in that slide, this sits on the side of the vessel, and when the family puts the cannonballs in, because we believe in it being participatory, and on their count, and usually choreographed to a nice song, they tip the air tray, and the body goes in the water, and it goes in very quickly. And then we mark the area, and then we play the decedent's favorite song, and it's quite a beautiful event as we fire off the cannon. And these are...
I could interject for a second, Captain. As a funeral director for many years now, 20 going on 25 years, I've not seen anything quite so moving as when you inter a body into the sea and the family being there to help participate in that event. It is very moving, and it's extremely well done.
Thank you, Chris. You know what's interesting is the last one we did together was my very good friend Christian, who had a brain. Yeah, he had a brain tumor, and he's 65 years of age. Let me tell you a quick story here. We have to be in 600 feet of water. We left Plymouth after the Army Honor Guard at 7:30 that morning. We head out to sea 4 hours, and we're trying to get to 600 feet of water. And I look down and I see a shark take a bird. I've never seen that. I'm on the water every day. I've never seen a shark take a bird. And I said, wow. Then I look up, and there's a whale that breached. And I said, this is the place. And I looked down, and it's 700 feet of water. So we had our service for Christian at sea. As soon as his body went over, about 75 Atlantic white-sided dolphins came out of the water. They're all looking at me. And their eyes are as big as tennis balls. And it was like, we've got him now. And it was so serene, and it was like incredibly beautiful. And it was very comforting to me and to his family that the ocean now has him back. It's what he wanted. And it was like he was received and accepted by the dolphins. It was very cool. And every time I see a dolphin, I was in a storm many, many years ago, 3 decades ago, 100 miles offshore. And we were in 60-foot seas, and it was just a nightmare because there was no technology like there is today. And I was sailing a boat up with my dad from Florida. And the only thing that kept my nose to the wheel heading north on the compass were the dolphins, because they were with us the whole part of the way. This is what a body burial looked like back in World War II. So we pretty much gussied that up. This is what they look like today, celebrating one's life. That was out of New York. This is a real life. Lower left is a Navy lieutenant paying his respects to the Navy lieutenant who's in the burial shroud. And to the right is a very famous photographer in Boston that we took out to sea. And that's his Olympic basketball wife. She played for the Russian Olympic team. And see how they write messages on the shroud? It's quite beautiful when they do that, because people get to emote, and they get to emote and celebrate, and they get a chance to spend time doing it. So this is the first full body burial at sea we did, and that was a shroud that I didn't like, but it was the only thing available, and that's why I decided, let's go make our own and make it better. And that, you see that barbell weight there? That's what the fellow died. He was a weightlifter. He was 43 years of age. And when I looked at the picture, even though he loved the barbells, I didn't think it looked good. So that's why we came up with what they did in the olden days, and they still do, with cannonballs. New for 2021, we have the Burgies. We have all these different types of urns and memorabilia, because people like that so they can remember their loved one. And we only use ocean-friendly, I'll call it merchandise, the burial shroud, the urn. And this is a project we were working on in Florida on the upper left. That is called the Great Burial Reef, where you can put the cremated remains of your loved one in a reef. It becomes a reef. You can fish at the reef. You can visit Grandpa's reef by scuba diving. It's pretty cool. But up here in Massachusetts, there are too many restrictions with the fisheries, and they're not allowing it just yet. They will someday. We're still working on it, because there's a reef off of Harwichport, and it's made of tires. So that's not an obstruction to navigation, so this shouldn't be. So we can also arrange for, through the funeral home, we call it the Door to Shore program, where we can pick people up and drop them off. We also have now, we used to do photo shows with DVDs, but that technology is old news. We can use a Facebook real time to dial in Aunt Mary, who's in London, who can't make it, or Brother Jerry, who might be sick and infirmed in a bed in LA. we can do it in real time on FaceTime so they can see exactly what we do. And we're going to come back to this, but a lot of people say, this is great, sign me up. Well, we don't do that because we're not the fiduciary, but the funeral home does. So many people say, how do I pre-plan this or a traditional end-of-life chapter? What are they going to do with me? So this is what we hear. I want to make decisions so my family doesn't have to. I have to do a spend down before Meta whoever kicks in. I just want to do this today. Who do I write the check to? Do you have monthly payment plans? Who do I talk to? And Chris will come back and he'll discuss that a little bit as soon as this is over. So what we talked about is we offer coast to coast at sea events for scatterings via boat, air, and full body burials that are affordable, memorable, and really quite proper and fitting. And we have 86 boats on both coasts. We can react within 48 hours, which is pretty important for some religions that have to have their loved one committed somehow by the second sundown. And we work with 2,300 of the 18,000 funeral directors in America, and that's growing. And we're recognized by the Navy, the Coast Guard, the EPA. And the other folks that use us, the FBI, the Secret Service, and the CIA, they all use us because we don't cut any corners, and we're discreet and we're confidential, and that's what they like. And that's what most families want. I didn't make any of these statistics up. They're all the National Funeral Directors Association or the Vital Statistics or the Coast Guard. I'll come back to this, but if you want to take a picture of that QR code with your camera, it will send you right to this presentation so you can share it with family or friends, or you can hit on that tiny URL and get to it. We'll come back to that. So we're located here in Marshfield, and our email is oceanburial@aol.com, oceanburial@aol.com. And we respond within an hour. So if you call us, we get right back to you. And that's one of the benefits that many families have because they call folks, they never get the phone call back. That concludes my presentation. I'm going to shut down the PowerPoint for now. And if anybody wants to watch this 5-minute full body burial later, it's actually pretty cool. We can do that. So I'd like to kick this over. We're 44 minutes into our 1 hour. I'd like to kick it over to Chris to see if there's anything, Chris Goulet of the Hamel Leiden Funeral Home and Crematory, because maybe there's some things I forgot and he can talk about his services. And then we'll open it up to questions. Okay. Does that sound good, Chris? You want to talk?
Sure. Yeah. Happy to. Well, I mentioned our affiliation with Captain White and the thoughtfulness that he's put into the product that he delivers. And really it is very well done and very meaningful. And as I said, I'm proud to work with him. Some families though want different options for burial, whether it's burial in the ground or cremation and burial of cremated remains or interment in a niche, as Brad mentioned a little while ago, or columbarium. But if your inclination is to have something at sea, there are a lot of options where it comes to that, cremation or full body. And whether that's an attended event or where your family comes along, or if it's something that's the family isn't going to attend, Captain White has a lot of different choices for that. And you don't have to use our funeral home, but we do have a good affiliation with him and we are pretty well respected. So if you have questions regarding cremation or body burials on land or at sea, you can reach us at hamelleiden.com. That's HAMELLYDON.com, or you can call us at 800-696-5887. And we always answer our phones. If it's after hours, we get right back to you within just a few minutes, usually, of you leaving a message. And we're very well respected. A lot of folks have left reviews on us that have done business with us on Google and Yelp. So you can check us out, Better Business Bureau as well. Check us out, and we have 5-star ratings across the board.
Chris, really good executive summary. Thank you. But 3 things we need, please. What's your toll-free number again?
800-696-5887 is the number you can reach us 24 hours a day.
Thank you. And Chris also specializes in veterans, and he's got a great veterans package. And he's also got a special burial at sea direct cremation scattering package, which he'll talk about. And then, so Chris, if you could talk about those 2 things.
Sure.
One thing I'd like you to talk about is when somebody calls you I'm calling you ring, 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 Hemel, and you pick up. Uh, from that phone call to when we're heading out to sea, kind of tell folks what happens timing wise. How long does it take? What's involved? When do they pay? Just kind of give us an ABC of what happens when somebody dies.
Sure. So our offices are located in Quincy, but we've made it very easy for people to do business with us to arrange for a cremation and a sea scattering or a burial at sea by having a full process that's automated and touch-free, even meeting-free for many families if they elect. So everything can be communicated to us that we need for a death certificate electronically, and all the documents are e-signable. So you never actually have to come into our facility. We started doing this with the advent of COVID, and it's been very well received for most of our families. When we are notified of a death, we'll of course remove the person into our care right away at any hour of the day or night. And it's about 4 to 5 business days from the notification of that death and the receiving of that loved one into our care. It's about 4 to 5 business days from that point in time to where all the paperwork is completed and the cremation is completed. And we have cremated remains available for burial at sea or scattering at sea.
Veterans package?
Veterans plan is very similar, except we offer free delivery of the cremated remains to the place of interment, whether that's at Captain White's vessel or if it's at the National Cemetery or another cemetery. We also have a offering that's somewhat unique to our viewing audience here today with Captain White. We have devised a sort of a door to shore plan for everything that's needed for cremation, a direct cremation, including all fees, permits, and necessary authorizations for removing a person into our care, affecting the cremation, and having the cremated remains available. And that is $200 off our normal price of $1,695. So the total cost to you and the viewers here today would be $1,495 for that cremation.
Thank you. And that's one of the best price opportunities around. Folks, one thing we learned about early on when we started doing full body burials at sea is that many folks don't want to be embalmed because they just don't want to be, and they don't want to put any of those chemicals into the ocean. So really the big reason why we work with Hemel Funeral Care is they have one of the most sophisticated refrigeration systems in New England. And when Chris said that it takes 4 or 5 days to figure it out and do the cremation, because you've got 2 days waiting for the medical examiner to sign off, and then you've got the actual cremation scheduling, which has been pretty busy with COVID. If folks choose a full body burial at sea, that maybe goes out to maybe 7 to 10 days. And time's not on your side if you've died because of what naturally happens on decomposition. So the heavy duty, I'll call it refrigeration, that Hemel Leiden has is nips that in the bud, and it doesn't create timing restraints on a family trying to make their decision because they've got some breathing room. So that's another very important point that he didn't bring up, just because maybe he forgot because he's a busy guy. But we're not funeral directors, so we can't recommend either way. But you don't have to be embalmed. It's not prohibited, nor is it recommended. So it's really what the family wants and what the decedent wants.
Right. I would not, Cap, I'd go a step further. I would not want to inter a body into the sea that had been embalmed, just because those chemicals are rather harsh. And the refrigeration that we employ is really, it allows the family, as you pointed out, a little breathing room in order to make travel arrangements, figure out what point of departure is going to be selected, and all the necessary arrangements that need to be made in advance. So there's a little flexibility when you're using our firm for that.
Chris, thank you very much. And folks, Chris also runs, excuse me, and manages the seminars pre-COVID at Gillette Stadium for the seniors and for hospice. Can you talk a little bit about that, Chris?
The audio's cut out a little bit, Captain. What was that?
How you were running those seminars at Gillette Stadium with hospice on inviting people in and talk about exactly what we're talking about here today?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Near Gillette Stadium, we had, we're a big supporter of hospice and palliative care. it's some of the Lord's work, in my opinion, that is being done to keep people comfortable and at home with their loved ones, not in a foreign environment or an artificial environment. But we speak to a lot of the hospices and been guest speakers in the different organizations. Care Dimensions is one in particular. That's one of the largest hospices in the area, and and we do work with them and educate their clientele about the different options that are available out there for not only burial or cremation, but sea burial as well.
And so Chris and his firm really are the experts with hospice. And Chris, thanks so much. So folks, let's open it up. If there are questions, there might be some. We've got some time. Go right ahead and ask.
Sure.
Chris, I think we told them everything they needed to know, but go ahead, Carol.
And thank you. It was a great presentation.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, we're honored to have been a part of it and explained a little bit of what we do and how we do it. We know that for many people, this is a intensely personal subject, and sometimes questions aren't comfortably asked in a forum such as this. So we want you to know that if you do have questions about the services that we provide or that Captain White provides, we welcome any phone calls at any time.
Okay.
Again, your 800 number, Chris?
Or you could reach us by calling 800-696-5887, or you can visit us online at hamillleiden.com.
And our business is oceanburial@aol.com. That's the email, oceanburial@aol.com. A couple of things we can do for you. We can send you more information, a free information kit. We can send you the link to this presentation if you'd like to share it with others. And that about wraps it for me. Susan, do you have any other questions for us?
I do not, but I want to thank you again for your time. I know this is the third or so presentation you've done for us, and this is very well attended. So I thank everyone for participating, and feel free to email me if you have any questions. I can certainly reach out to Brad and Chris if you don't have their information as we go forward. So I thank you all very much. And again, if anyone has any questions, pop in before we sign off here.
Oh,
Thanks, Susan. Bye.
thank you.
Bye, Chris. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Be well.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Welcome. Be well.